I used to think I knew what a perfect morning looked like. The smell of fresh coffee sunlight streaming through the bedroom window, and my wife Kara sleeping peacefully beside me. That particular Thursday morning seemed no different. I was getting ready for work, checking my emails, living the life I thought we had built together. Then her phone rang at 6 a.m. 3 times. She jolted awake, grabbed it, and silenced it faster than I could blink. When I asked who was calling so early, she mumbled something about work emergencies and rolled over. I believed her. I had no idea that within 48 hours, I would vanish from her life completely, and her entire family would be hunting me down like I was the criminal. Before I dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt that gut instinct telling you something is wrong, hit that like button. And subscribe, because this story takes a turn nobody saw coming. Least of all me, let me take you back to where it all started to unravel. My name is Dominic. I am 32 years old, and I work as a software engineer in Boston. 5 years ago, I married the woman I thought was my soulmate. Kara and I met in college during one of those random encounters at a campus coffee shop. She spilled her latte on my laptop, apologized profusely, and somehow that disaster turned into our first date. We laughed about it for years. We built what I thought was a beautiful life together. A cozy house in the suburbs, 2 stable careers and plans for a bigger home, and maybe kids within the next 2 years. I remember those evenings we spent cooking dinner together, talking about our dreams, arguing playfully about whether to get a dog or a cat first. Life felt complete. Kara worked as a marketing manager for a tech startup downtown. Her job required occasional business trips, maybe once a month, and I never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted her completely. We were partners. That is what marriage is supposed to be. Right? Trust, communication. Building something together. I thought we had all of that. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was. Or maybe I just did not want to see what was right in front of me. About 3 months before everything fell apart, things started to change. Small things at first. Kara began taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. She set a new password on it, something she had never done before. When I casually asked why, she said her company implemented new security protocols. It sounded reasonable. Her business trips increased from once a month to 3 or 4 times. Again, she explained it was a busy season, new clients, important projects. I believed every word because I had no reason not to. Then came the nights when I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and find her awake, staring at her phone screen in the darkness. Her face would be lit up by that blue glow, and she would be smiling at something, typing quickly. Once I asked who she was texting at that hour. She said it was a colleague asking about an urgent project deadline. I went back to sleep. But that uncomfortable feeling lingered in my chest, the kind you try to ignore, because acknowledging it means facing something you are not ready for. Our physical intimacy declined. Kara was always tired, always had a headache, always had an excuse. We went from making love several times a week to maybe once every 2 weeks, and even then it felt mechanical. Distant, like her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else. I told myself it was stress, work pressure. Everyone goes through phases like this, I thought. I convinced myself to be patient, to be understanding. One evening I came home early from work. A meeting had been canceled, and I thought I would surprise Kara with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. As I walked into the house, I heard her voice coming from our bedroom. She was on the phone and her tone was different. Soft, flirtatious. She was laughing in a way I had not heard in months. I stood in the hallway, frozen, listening to her say things like, "I cannot wait to see you either," and "You make me feel so alive." When she finally came out and saw me standing there, she looked genuinely startled. She quickly said she had been talking to her best friend Jessica about some personal stuff. A few days later, I called Jessica. I made up an excuse about wanting to borrow a recipe Kara had mentioned. Jessica was friendly and chatty, but then she said something that made my blood run cold. She mentioned she had not talked to Kara in weeks because they had both been so busy. My hands started shaking. If Kara had not been talking to Jessica, then who was she talking to that night? Who was making her feel so alive? I started paying closer attention. I checked our credit card statements and found charges at expensive restaurants. I had never been to, gifts purchased from high-end stores. When I asked Kara about them, she said they were for company parties and gifts for her female boss. Every explanation sounded plausible on the surface, but the pieces were not adding up anymore. Deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. The foundation of our marriage was cracking, and I could hear it breaking beneath my feet. I just was not ready to admit it yet. Part of me still hoped I was wrong, that I was being paranoid, that the woman I loved was not betraying me. But hope, I would soon learn, can be a dangerous thing when it blinds you to the truth. The truth hit me on a Saturday morning in early October. Kara told me she had to go into the office to work on a big presentation. She left around 9 a.m., kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal, and drove away. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was all those months of suspicion building up, or maybe it was just instinct, but I decided to surprise her at work with coffee. I wanted to see her face when I showed up unannounced. I wanted to prove to myself that I was being ridiculous. I drove to her office building downtown carrying 2 lattes and a bag of her favorite pastries. The parking lot was empty. The building was locked. There was not a single car in sight. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I called Kara's phone. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. I sat in my car for a moment, trying to process what was happening. She had lied to me. But where was she? I started driving around aimlessly, my thoughts racing. Then, almost by accident, I turned down a street in the downtown area and saw her car. It was parked in front of a boutique hotel, one of those trendy places with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist design. My stomach dropped. I parked across the street and waited. 2 hours. 120 minutes of torture sitting there, staring at the entrance, praying I was wrong, hoping she would walk out alone with some reasonable explanation. At 11:30 a.m., the hotel doors opened. Kara walked out, and she was not alone. There was a man beside her, tall, wearing an expensive suit, perfectly styled hair. His name, I would later find out, was Kyle. They were laughing about something completely comfortable with each other. Then, right there on the sidewalk, he put his arm around her waist and kissed her cheek. She did not pull away. She smiled up at him like he was the center of her universe. They talked for another minute before separating and walking to their cars. I sat there unable to move, unable to breathe. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my heart. This was real. This was happening. The woman I had loved for 7 years, the woman I had built a life with, was cheating on me, and she looked happy about it. I drove home in a daze. I do not even remember the drive. When I got there, I sat in my car in the driveway for another 30 minutes, trying to figure out what to do. Should I confront her immediately? Should I wait? Should I gather more evidence? My mind was spinning in circles. That evening, Kara came home around 6 p.m., acting like nothing had happened. She was cheerful, asked me how my day was started making dinner. I watched her move around the kitchen, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Finally, I could not take it anymore. I asked her directly, "Where were you this morning?" She did not even hesitate. "At the office, I told you." "I went to your office," I said quietly. "It was closed." Her face went pale. She stopped chopping vegetables and turned to look at me. For a few seconds, she said nothing. I could see her mind working, trying to come up with another lie. Then she sighed and said, "Okay, I was not at the office." "Where were you?" My voice was shaking now. She looked down at her hands. "I was with someone." "Who is Kyle?" I asked. Her eyes went wide. You saw us? I saw everything, I said. How long has this been going on? Kara started crying, real tears streaming down her face. It is a mistake, she sobbed. It has only been 2 months. I met him at a company conference and we just connected, and I do not know it just happened. But it does not mean anything. I love you, Dominic. Please, you have to believe me. 2 months. 2 months of lies, of sneaking around, of pretending everything was fine while she was building a whole secret life. I felt numb. Did you sleep with him? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She nodded, unable to look at me. I'm so sorry. I will end it. I will do anything. We can go to marriage counseling. Please do not give up on us. I stood up from the table. I did not yell. I did not throw anything. I just walked into our bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. I could hear her crying in the living room all night. I did not sleep. I just sat there staring at the wall, feeling my entire world collapse around me. Every memory we had together was now tainted. Every smile, every kiss, every promise felt like a lie. The next morning, Kara tried talking to me again. She promised she would cut off all contact with Kyle. She said she would do whatever it took to fix this, that she would prove her love to me, that we could get through this together. She kept saying, it was just a mistake, just 2 months, it meant nothing. But that was the problem. It meant everything to me. It meant she had looked me in the eye and lied for 2 months. It meant she had shared intimate moments with someone else while I was at home trusting her completely. It meant the person I thought I knew did not exist. I listened to her talk, watched her cry, heard her beg for forgiveness. And in that moment, I made my decision. I told her calmly, I need time to think. She looked relieved, like she thought that meant there was hope. She did not realize I had already decided. There was nothing left to save. The trust was gone, shattered into pieces too small to ever put back together. And I knew exactly what I needed to do. I just needed time to plan it perfectly. Over the next 10 days, I became someone I did not recognize. On the surface, I was calm, functional, even polite to Kara. We had conversations about mundane things like groceries and bills. She interpreted my calmness as progress, as a sign that I was processing and would eventually forgive her. She had no idea what I was actually doing. Behind the scenes, I was methodically preparing to disappear from her life. I started by moving money from our joint bank account into a separate account under my mother's name, small amounts at a time, so Kara would not notice. I contacted a divorce lawyer, explained the situation, and began preparing all the necessary paperwork. I gathered evidence, screenshots of credit card statements, photos I had taken of her and Kyle at the hotel, and access to our shared laptop, where I found months of messages between them. The messages were worse than I imagined. Detailed plans about where to meet, romantic declarations, even discussions about how I was clueless and boring. Reading those words felt like being stabbed repeatedly. I arranged with my boss to work remotely for the next few months, explaining I needed to deal with a family emergency. My company was flexible, and they agreed without much question. Then I reached out to Marcus, my best friend from college who lived in Seattle. We had stayed close over the years, and when I asked if I could stay with him for a while without explaining why, he simply said, "My door is always open, brother." I started packing my important belongings, clothes, documents, my laptop, a few personal items that mattered to me. I shipped them to Marcus's address in small boxes over the course of a week, using a shipping store instead of our home address. Kara never noticed. She was too busy trying to win me back with home-cooked meals and affectionate gestures that now felt hollow. On a Thursday morning, exactly 10 days after our confrontation, I executed my plan. Kara left for work at 8 a.m. as usual. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I moved. I placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table, along with a folder containing all the evidence I had gathered. No letter, no explanation, no emotional goodbye. Just the facts, printed in black and white. I loaded the last of my belongings into my car, I took one final look at the house we had bought together, the home I thought we would raise children in, and I felt nothing, just emptiness. I locked the door, dropped my key in the mailbox, and drove to the airport. My flight to Seattle left at noon. As I sat in the departure lounge, I took out my phone and methodically blocked Kara's number. I deleted all my social media accounts. I had already ordered a new phone with a new number which Marcus had waiting for me in Seattle. Only my parents and a handful of close friends would have the new number. Kara would have no way to reach me. When the plane took off, I felt something shift inside me. Not happiness exactly, but relief. A sense of control returning. I had spent months feeling like a victim, like my life was spiraling out of my control. But this decision, this choice to walk away completely, was mine. I was not running away. I was choosing myself. I was choosing my peace over her chaos. Kara arrived home that afternoon around 5 p.m. I can only imagine what went through her mind when she saw those divorce papers on the table. She called me immediately. The call did not go through. She tried texting. The messages turned green undelivered. She must have panicked, then driving to my office, only to be told I was working remotely. She called my parents. My mother, bless her, simply told Kara, "Dominic is dealing with things in his own way. We support his decision." She called my friends. None of them knew where I was, and the ones who did refused to tell her. Within 24 hours, Kara's entire family became involved. Her father, Richard, was a lawyer, the kind of man who was used to getting his way through intimidation and legal threats. He started making calls trying to track me down through official channels. Her brother, Brandon, a hot-headed 28-year-old with too much time on his hands, took to social media. He posted on Facebook calling me a coward who had abandoned his wife without explanation. He painted me as the villain, conveniently leaving out the part about his sister's affair. Kara's mother, Patricia, called my mother and screamed at her over the phone, demanding to know where I was, insisting that her daughter deserved answers, that I was being cruel and unreasonable. My mother, who knew the whole truth, calmly told Patricia that her son had every right to protect himself from people who had hurt him. Then she hung up. The harassment escalated. Richard and Patricia showed up at my parents' house, pounding on the door, threatening legal action over shared assets. Brandon posted my workplace address online, encouraging people to call and complain about me. I received an email from my company's HR department asking about the situation. I sent them a detailed response, including evidence of Kara's infidelity and the harassment her family was engaging in. My company stood by me, released a statement protecting my privacy, and threatened legal action against anyone who continued the campaign. But I was not going to stay silent anymore. From Seattle, sitting in Marcus's apartment, with a clear head and a calm heart, I drafted an email to Richard. I attached every piece of evidence I had: photos of Kara and Kyle, credit card statements, screenshots of their messages. I wrote simply, "Your daughter betrayed our marriage. I chose to leave quietly with dignity. If you continue to harass me or my family, I will make these evidences public. This is your only warning." I sent it. Then I contacted my lawyer and instructed him to prepare a defamation lawsuit against Brandon for his social media posts. The message was clear. I was not a victim they could push around. I had left, but I was not powerless. Within 48 hours, the harassment stopped. Richard had shown the evidence to his family. The social media posts were deleted. Brandon issued a public apology, though it was clearly forced. Kara tried one last time to reach me, calling from a friend's phone. I saw the Seattle area code and almost answered, but then I stopped myself. What was there left to say? She had made her choices. I had made mine. The first few months in Seattle were hard. I am not going to pretend they were not. Marcus gave me space and support in equal measure. He never pushed me to talk, but he was always there when I needed him. I threw myself into work during the day, channeling all my anger and hurt into being productive. At night, though, the loneliness would creep in. I would lie awake replaying memories, wondering if there were signs I had missed earlier, torturing myself with what ifs. But I refused to let myself drown. Every morning, I forced myself to get up and go to the gym. I started running along the waterfront, breathing in the salty air of Puget Sound, letting the physical exhaustion quiet my mind. I discovered that movement helped. Action helped. Sitting still and dwelling on the past only made things worse. So I kept moving forward literally and figuratively. I began volunteering at a local food bank on weekends. Helping other people seeing real struggles and real resilience gave me perspective. My problems felt smaller when I was serving meals to families who were fighting just to get by. I joined a hiking club and spent Saturdays climbing trails in the Cascades, pushing my body to its limits, finding peace in the silence of the mountains. Marcus introduced me to his friend group, and soon I was playing pickup basketball every Sunday, laughing again, feeling like a person. Again, instead of just a wounded animal licking his wounds. 6 months after I left Boston, the divorce was finalized. Kara did not contest anything. She did not fight for the house, or the savings, or any of it. I think she just wanted it to be over. Wanted to stop being reminded of what she had lost. The papers arrived in the mail one Tuesday afternoon. I sat on Marcus's couch, holding that official document that legally ended my marriage, and I waited to feel something. Sadness, anger, regret. But all I felt was calm. It was done. That chapter of my life had closed. I heard through mutual friends that Kara and Kyle had broken up. Apparently, Kyle had been married the whole time, and when his wife found out about the affair, she left him too. Kara had lost everything chasing something that was never real to begin with. Part of me felt a grim satisfaction at that, but mostly I just felt nothing. She had become irrelevant to my life. Kara sent me an email a few weeks after the divorce was final. A long rambling message about how sorry she was, how she had made the biggest mistake of her life, how she wished she could turn back time. I read it once, then deleted it without responding. Not because I was angry, but because there was simply nothing left to say. That person, that life, that version of me who had loved her, it all belonged to the past, and I was determined to build a future that had nothing to do with any of it. About a year after leaving Boston, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Her name was Sophia, and I ran into her at the hiking club. She was a third-grade teacher with an infectious laugh and a genuine warmth that reminded me what healthy connection felt like. We started talking after a particularly challenging hike, bonding over our shared love of terrible puns and good coffee. When she asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime, I hesitated. The idea of dating again terrified me. But then I thought about what I had learned over the past year. About how staying stuck in fear was its own kind of prison. So I said yes. Sophia and I took things slowly. I was honest with her about my past, about the divorce, about my trust issues. She listened without judgment and shared her own stories of heartbreak and resilience. We built something different from what I had with Kara. This was not the intense, all-consuming passion of young love. This was steady, honest, comfortable. We went on hikes, cooked meals together, watched movies on quiet Friday nights. She met Marcus, and they got along great. I met her family and felt welcomed. It was not perfect, but it was real. And real, I had learned, was infinitely more valuable than the illusion of perfection. Looking back now, I understand things I could not see when I was in the middle of the pain. Choosing to ghost Kara was not about being cruel or cowardly. It was about protecting myself from people who had shown me they did not value me. I did not owe her family explanations or closure when their daughter had already destroyed our marriage. I did not owe anyone access to me just because they demanded it. That was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Walking away does not make you weak. Sometimes it is the strongest thing you can do. Staying in situations that diminish you, accepting betrayal because you are afraid of change, that is what truly damages you. I learned that I could rebuild. that my worth was not determined by whether someone chose to be faithful to me, that I deserved someone who would choose me every single day, not just when it was convenient. I do not hate Kara anymore. Honestly, I do not think about her at all most days. When memories surface, they feel like scenes from someone else's life. That version of Dominic who trusted blindly, who ignored his instincts, who believed love was enough to overcome anything, he does not exist anymore. The man I am now is wiser, more careful, but also more open to genuine connection. Because I know what that looks like now. If you are going through something similar, if someone has betrayed your trust, and their family is making you feel like you are the problem, hear this. You do not owe loyalty to people who betrayed yours first. You do not owe explanations to people who refuse to see the truth. You owe yourself a life worth living. You owe yourself peace. And sometimes getting to that peace means walking away, completely blocking out the noise and building something new from scratch. The greatest revenge is not anger or bitterness. It is indifference. It is building a life so full and satisfying that your betrayer becomes a footnote in your story instead of the main chapter. It is finding genuine happiness with someone who actually deserves you. It is waking up one morning and realizing you have not thought about them in weeks and not caring when you finally do remember. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is choosing your own peace over someone else's chaos. I do not hate Kara anymore. I just do not think about her at all. And that, I realized, is true freedom. So if someone has betrayed you, if you are sitting there wondering whether you should give them another chance or protect yourself, ask yourself this question. Do you want to spend the next year, 5 years, forever wondering if they are being honest? Do you want to live with that knot of anxiety in your stomach every time they are late coming home? Or do you want to be free? Really, truly free. I chose freedom. And I have never regretted it for a single moment. What about you? Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because staying would have destroyed you? Have you ever been blamed by others for protecting yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need permission to choose ourselves. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who is struggling with a similar decision. You deserve better. You deserve peace. And you deserve a life built on truth, not lies. Take care of yourselves out there. Until next time.